I'm being joined tonight by a senior advocate of Nigeria, rights activist, Mr. Adegboruwa. He joins us virtually from Lagos. It's a pleasure to see you, Leonard Sick. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you. Good evening. My pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. Although it's 24 hours now since the Supreme Court gave its verdict on the election of Bola Tinubu, and which affirmed the position of the trial court, the Presidential Election Petition Court, and now gave his opposition upon how the elections were conducted and how the appellants approached the matter. Give us your own insight, or give us your view on the outcome of the Apex Court's decision.
Thank you. I think it's for us, first of all, to appreciate the dexterity of their lordships and the urgency with which the matter was approached, such that an appeal that was argued on Monday, a judgment has been delivered within the same week. And I think it should send a signal to the other courts below, the Court of Appeal, and indeed the high courts, on the need to let litigants know their fate timelessly. And having said that, also to commend the appellants, especially Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. If you have followed his politics over the years, he's somebody who believes in the rule of law. Whatever issues he wants to canvass, he would deploy the legal system to fight his battles. And the same thing with His Excellency Dr. Peter Obi, in terms of their resolve to follow due process of law to ventilate their grievances. It is a commendable effort. And of course, to the president who has been affirmed, also his resolve to also follow the law and not to use his power of incumbency to silence opponents or to hinder the process of access to justice. And I think that from the assessment of the decision of their lordships, most of the issues that were resolved had been decided long ago by the same court. Matters relating to the status of the Federal Capital Territory, the issues of double nomination, and indeed the issue of the role of technology in elections have been discussed and indeed resolved. We were only looking forward to the fact that the electoral umpire gave promises, especially towards the election. You remember, INEC spokesperson, I think Mr. Festus Okoye also, was on TV every day assuring Nigerians that election will be credible, it will be transparent, and indeed will be uploaded on the IRF portal. And, because if you sample the opinion of majority of Nigerians, most people had left election to politicians. In the years past, a lot of people had become a little bit paranoid concerning elections. But this particular time, the assurances of INEC, the promise to deploy technology, give the impression that we're going to have a system that will be different from what we used to know. So that revved up, or at least brought about the interest of a greater number of Nigerians to participate in the election. And so I believe that if it is true, as their lordship said yesterday, that failure by INEC to upload election result on the IRF portal meant that there was loss of confidence in that process, that indeed is a heavy statement. And it's a declaration of lack of confidence in the electoral umpire itself. Because when the electorate have lost confidence in the electoral system, then it then goes to the issue of the genuineness of the results of that effort itself. I'll just give you an example, Sheon. In this country, years past, the late Chief M.K. Abiola had a newspaper outfit called Concord Press. And there was a publication that Julius Berger was building houses for justice of Supreme Court, and that it was an attempt to buy or bribe their lordships by the Babangida regime. And their lordships felt offended and briefed their lawyer and filed a suit for defamation against Chief MK Abiola in court here in Lagos. Over the years, fast forward, Chief MK Abiola eventually contested the 1993 election and was elected unanimously by everybody in Nigeria. And of course, that election was annulled, and Chief MKO insisted on his mandate. Eventually, he was arrested and charged to court, from the Federal High Court to the Court of Appeal, and eventually the case got to the Supreme Court. Before the same justices who had initiated a libel suit against his company. And the issue came. And once and for all, the Supreme Court justices said, we cannot sit on this appeal, even though we will be fair to the man. But the eye of the ordinary Nigerian, the likelihood of the thinking of the average person on the street will not give us that benefit of objectivity. So they recuse themselves. It is the same with elections. People's perspective, the opinion of people concerning election matters to the outcome of that election. It's not just a matter of figures. And that's why I thought that if it became clear to all of us that INEC failed Nigerians, that INEC reneged on its promises, there should be some penalty. It won't just walk away like that. Not just walking away like that. INEC participated in the process of the election petition from the Court of Appeal up to the Supreme Court, even opposing the views of the appellants. And I thought that that's something that we can learn from. That if the body did not fulfill its promises to the people of Nigeria, what would be the consequence for that failure? So that when we get to Bayelsa in November, when we get to Imo, when we get to Kogi, INEC will remember that if we continue in this way, there will be some sanctions. For instance, the head of the agency, what has happened? All those people who gave us those promises, what has happened? So I think that that was a little challenge in terms of the outcome of that election. And then secondly, the other decisions that were resolved by their lordship, I believe that they should be limited to election petition cases. Because we'll have challenge, for instance, if you say that a witness who is to come via subpoena, cannot front load his statement. Because, most witnesses who come by subpoena are people that you don't have access to, government agencies, public officers. You cannot have access to them prior to their appearing before the court. So I believe that that kind of decision, for instance, in respect of those witnesses that were struck out, will be limited to only election petitions, because it will be unfortunate to import that principle to our regular cases, because it will do great injustice to the prosecution of cases in the court. Other than that, I must commend their lordships, like I said, for the industry, and then for helping us to come to a conclusion timelessly so as to reduce the tension that was within the land before now.
Let me ask you, do you imagine that the speed at which the Supreme Court attended to that matter was somewhat unusual?
I don't think it's somewhat unusual, and I'll say the reasons why. Except we won't want to say the way it should be. Virtually everybody involved in legal practice, every advocate, can prophesy to you what will happen in cases, because we have precedents. We have cases that we rely upon for the decisions that we urge their lordships to give us. So within our own circle, in the legal profession, I think it was clear that everybody probably knew that that would be the outcome of that decision. It was just that, for me, it was an opportunity for us to also then leverage on how to correct the anomalies, that we have seen in the election, especially the issue of deployment of technology. And if the same issues were raised in the petition by Labour Party and resolved in the petition by PDP, there was no need going to the length of the petition of the second appellant, since the issues were virtually the same. So I do not think that the brevity of time within which that decision came affected the soundness of the judgment of their lordship. I don't think so.
Can you give us an idea what addition to law in Nigeria and to our election jurisprudence that this judgment of yesterday gave us?
Well, I think that for one, I mean, the status of the Federal Capital Territory is being resolved, that for the purpose of election, the FCT will also be rated in the same way as other states of the Federation. Abuja voters, like yourself, you will not have any superior voting power over the rest of us who are in the hinterlands. And I think that's important going forward. And the other lesson is, I believe that for now, we should be able to find a way to get the National Assembly to collate these decisions, especially the decision of the Court of Appeal, that dealt with the issues so generously. Matters relating to double nomination, for instance, is still going to be causing a lot of controversy. It should be resolved once and for all. The purpose is clear. You don't want a candidate to become somebody who's like a harlot, a political harlot. You go to your constituency to contest for Senate, you lose election, then you dash again and bring out a form for presidency. You lose again, and then you go back and bring out another form for House of Reps. I think that is the mischief that the National Assembly wanted to avoid. But for some cases that you see now about people in the National Assembly in particular, I mean, it will give the impression to Nigerians that that has not been addressed. And I think that's something that is a lesson from this decision, that the National Assembly should remove the ambiguity concerning matters relating to double nomination. Then the issue of resignation of public officers, we should be clear about it. What you want to achieve is very simple. If you're a public servant within the executive and you want to hold elective office, you have to choose between the two, whether you want to continue in office or you want to resign. So you can't continue as a member of the executive, for instance, and then at the same time you are seeking to contest election to the National Assembly, and you want to retain your seat at the same time. Those matters, I think, should be addressed. Then the final one is the issue of independent candidates. Because in the way that we're going in Nigeria, when we talk about leadership recruitment and the challenges we've had in terms of the quality of representation, a lot of Nigerians are reluctant to participate in politics because of the things going on in the political parties. Many people don't want to go through this process of godfatherism, this process of ritualism, this process of money bag politics. So if you give opportunity to independent candidates to be able to contest election and then represent their people, that will give a lot of impetus to a lot of people who are currently on the sidelines and probably are not interested to soil their image or to participate in politics. That, I think, is what the National Assembly should be looking at.
I mean, going forward, I mean, just like former President Goodluck Jonathan said, that elections are over, that we need to move forward. How easy do you think it is for those who are aggrieved, especially those who think that elections, their mandates were stalling, and those who think that the elections were wrought with irregularities? How easy is it to move forward for President Tinubu, for example? Does he have a role to play in allowing Nigerians to move forward?
A lot. Everything starts and stops on the table of the president. I believe the president should borrow a leaf from President Yaradua, who said that the process that brought me into office cannot be commended. I do not want to replicate that legacy. So he began electoral reforms. I do not think, for instance, that given all that we have had since yesterday, that it's likely that President Bola Tinubu will still contest election in 2027. He should not be the person to appoint the chairman of INEC. He should not play any role at all. And you see that close to 3 days ago, he rolled out the name of 9 resident electoral commissioners across all the states. I don't think that that should be the case. So I urge the president to use the opportunity to recuse himself from getting involved in partisan appointments, especially in relation to those who will determine an election in which he may be a candidate. That power should be taken away from the president. The president should urgently work with the National Assembly to achieve federalism, to achieve restructuring, because these are the things that he's been known for over the years. Right from 1999, right from his Nadeco days, it will be an unfortunate experience for us in this nation if we still have to convince the president on the need for restructuring, on the need for devolution of powers, on the need for us to have true federalism in Nigeria. It will be quite unfortunate. So I think everything is on the table of the president to seize the momentum of the decision of the Supreme Court and settle down and take Nigeria to a state where everybody will have a sense of belonging and not something like a winner-takes-all event.
Let me take you to Ondo State. It does look like governance in that state is being impacted by, on one hand, the health of the governor, and we're praying that he gets back on his feet, full feet, and agile. And we're hoping that his health he recovers 100%. And what has become now a rift between himself and his deputy, Mr. Adegboruwa, yesterday had come out to say, look, I apologize, but we are hearing from the side of the governor that he has rejected his apology. Let me get your view on what is the ongoing in Ondo State.
Sure, I'm very much sober, and I say so with all sense of respect to the two individuals involved in this game. Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu is a role model to so many of us in so many respects. And so I have continued to pray, that one way or the other, he will find the magnanimity towards calling everybody in this order. But when I saw him with the Southwest governors, I was really delighted in my spirit because, it's been a matter of speculation. Everybody's been praying. And he's somebody who is so loved within the states and within the legal profession, and I'm sure in Nigeria too. If you remember the role he played in respect of power rotation, in respect of federalism, in respect of constitutionalism. So I was a little bit worried when I didn't hear from the governor, but I was so glad to see him with the Southwest governors. So I'm thinking and expecting that now that we have seen His Excellency and he's in good spirit and is recovering, it's not this time that we should be bickering. If the deputy has apologized for whatever reason it's worth, and the party is intervening, people should gather together and resolve the issues and let the state move forward. Both of them have less than 1 year. So I can't see the need for the bickerings. I can't see the need for all the crises because the governance is at the back seat in Ondo State currently. And that shouldn't be the case. So my appeal to both the governor and the deputy is to bring themselves together. After all, they started this race and find a way to resolve their issues. Otherwise, the tension will continue in the state and there will be no development. And that will be unfortunate.
Well, what do you think could be the way forward? Because this is pure politics, isn't it? And if the governor says, oh, keep your apology, I'm not taking it. And if someone whom we have heard say a lot of the time, they're lucky, I will decrease so that you can increase. And a lot of his allies have said, no, Mr. Governor, you don't say that. But it does look like if you betrayed while he was on medical leave by the activities of Mr. Lucky and Mr. Adegboruwa said, look, there are those who are go-betweens that are said things to the governor that are, they are not right about his ambition. But is it a crime to have ambition? Is it also a crime to get angry if someone is disloyal? But for the sake of Ondo State people, the governor is being in your state recuperating. But for you, in your own view, what do you think is a way forward?
First of all, power belongs to God. And I think that's what everybody should realize, whether on the side of the governor or on the side of the deputy. Power belongs to God. And so nobody should arrogate to himself, between both of them, the capacity to hold the state to ransom. Now, like I said, the governor is recovering. But his recovery probably is something that will take some time. So he's not physically available in the states where he was elected. I don't think it makes sense if the governor, for one reason or the other, is recuperating and is not available physically to take governance, and then you also are removing the deputy. So there's such a vacuum. So the two people who are given the mandate by the people of Ondo State during the election are not available to rule. The governor is not available physically. The deputy is not being allowed to function also constitutionally. So there's a vacuum.
All right.
And I don't think that is proper. So both of them should resolve it. If the governor is not available, the deputy should stand in for him.
Mr. Olu Adegboruwa, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.